Hello, this is Hunter McDermott again with Guitar Blog, episode 3. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd, 4:53 p.m. Tuesdays are probably better for this than Sundays, turns out. I have time, but I'm usually doing stuff. It's kind of out of my routine for the week. Anyway, so maybe Tuesdays would be good to do this. I went to a jam last Tuesday. I'll be going again tonight, same one, and it was about 50% good. I say that with the caveat that any negative aspects of it that I'm experiencing are coming purely from me and my own self-esteem issues. So I'd say like we played Jordu, and that was kind of a highlight because I'd been working on the tune a lot, so my solo was, one of the better ones that I've had, and I felt confident going into it, and I heard good feedback from the guys about that specifically, so that's proof that if I really buckle down and focus on a tune, then I can absolutely play it and play it reasonably well. And that's to be expected, but it's a good reminder that, okay, you can't play amazingly over a tune you've never heard before, but a tune that you've worked on, then you can. You're capable of playing well under the right circumstances. To that end, I'm going to try to stay focused each month, maybe, on a different tune. Jordu is something I worked on for a while, and I was working on that Randy Vincent melodic cells stuff. I'm gonna shift to Someday My Prince Will Come, which is a tune I've always really thought was pretty, and the Miles Davis version from that record of the same name is just fantastic. It's so good. I love how it starts with that like droning bass, and then it kicks in with the rest of the band. It's so good. So I've been listening to lots of different recordings of that by different people, and getting to know the song myself, and it's been a good... So here's the good thing about focusing on a tune, even though it seems like you're neglecting so many other tunes, is this song in particular has these 7 sharp 5 chords in them. That kind of stuff. And I didn't have those memorized, so it's given me a good excuse to figure out different voicings for that chord type and learn it all over the place. So that's good. And then also, so there's this book that I knew I would not remember the name of. So the jazz guitar forums, they do these study groups from time to time, and there's one for a book called, I think it's Introduction to Jazz Guitar Soloing, or something like that. It's got a very generic sounding name, but it's from a guy named Joe Elliott who taught, or perhaps still teaches, at Musicians Institute, once known as the Guitar Institute of Technology in LA, which is where one of my former teachers went. I actually was considering going for a while, and I don't know, I guess the prestige of the school maybe isn't what it once was since Howard Roberts passed. I don't know if that's really true, but they crank out, you go for a year and you work your ass off, and any kind of intense focus like that on stuff is bound to produce some sort of positive result. So it's probably still a good program, but maybe it just is less focused on jazz than it once was, because Howard was a jazz player, and that was kind of where it started, and now it's got maybe more of a rock flavor to it. I don't know. I'm tiger hatting right now. Don't really know what I'm talking about. But anyway, they put out a line of books, and the books are generally of high quality because it's by the people who teach classes there. Anybody can write a good book, but I think I'm more inclined to trust a book that is written by a teacher who regularly teaches. They have a curriculum in mind. They've taught it enough times to cover all the bases, the things that might come up, to tweak it and, make sure that it's really reaching as many people as possible. It's a, you know, a honed thing, and then they just put it into book form. So anyway, but some things that made me perk up when I was just reading the introduction are he uses the caged patterns, which is the 5 major scale patterns that I already know and prefer to continue to use. A lot of books are like, there are 6 patterns or there are 7 patterns, and you know, not that it's bad to know more than one way to do something, but I just don't need that right now. I need to build on what I know, not relearn a bunch of stuff. So that's good. He also talks about comparing his practice to working out, which is something I've also done some thinking about, because like when it comes to working out, it's not difficult for me over time. I mean, it's taken time to get used to the habit, but it's like I run this day, then I do upper body on this day, and then I alternate. I do some yoga stuff. It's like I've got these different areas that I think about that are important for fitness and things that I want to do and improve, and I organize them throughout the week so that I hit all these different things and that I'm not overloading any one thing and hurting myself. And I think it's important and a good idea to think of the guitar practice that way too, or most practices really. Like, you think of different aspects of what your discipline is, you break it up, and then you work on those things. So that was cool, and probably several other things, but oh, and he talks about arpeggios a lot. So anyway, the big takeaway for that book is not really all that revolutionary. It's something I've heard Cheryl Bailey talk about, and I've got another book on it by somebody. It's basically chord tone soloing with arpeggios, which is chord tones, right? So you're doing over a major 7 chord, you might play the notes of that arpeggio. And then the idea is that you get to where you can play a measure of that arpeggio, and then wherever you end up as you're going into the next chord chains, you try to find the chord tone nearest to where you already are that fits the next chord. All right, so like the first 2 chords of Prince are B flat, major 7. This is in 3/4, so you hit 6 8th notes. And then it goes to a D7, D7 sharp 5 if you want to get fancy. Well, that's already a note of that arpeggio, so you could go down to the one before it or the one above it, so it'd be and then play that arpeggio, which goes to E flat major 7, which would be, again, that's already a note of the arpeggio, so you might go something like this. G7, C minor 7, G7 again, and then it depends if you could do dominant or minor there. 7, and then F7. Which would be back up to B flat, you know, whatever. It goes to D after that. D minor. Anyway, that's the idea. So he calls it the connecting game, which I like it. I think about things as like a game, and I personally like the aspect of it that is random. There's been some discussion about whether, you know, that's too much. For me, where I am in my playing, not having a prescribed way to do it is better for me. The prescription is find the note nearest to you, but the options are many. There are different ways to do it. You don't have to play the whole arpeggio from the root. You could start from the 3rd. You don't have to go all the way up. You could do reverse direction, you know, that kind of thing. Start descending, start ascending, mix and match. And what's I think is important about that is that it's training your ear like crazy. You're getting to know your arpeggios really, really well. And not just that, but the individual chord tones of those arpeggios, which is something that I haven't spent as much time in. So thinking about starting something on the third, for example, is a different way of thinking for me, because I'm just so stuck on the root, because that's like my guiding post. You know, when I'm lost, I can find a root fast. I can't find the third fast. But it's really shouldn't be that difficult if I can find the root. The third is always going to be there, major or minor. So that's the step that I'm taking now, is going one step beyond. Okay, I can still find the root fast, which is good, and that's my orienting method, and then I can find stuff near that. I did a video on finding octaves, and this is just like an evolution of that kind of thinking. Just understanding the neck, you know, and how all the notes relate to each other. But anyway, working on the connecting game, sticking these arpeggios together, gosh, it just feels like a lot of good material. Like it's just good. Like I've had the most success in my improvising with mixing arpeggios with running things through melodically, just whatever comes to me, or doing like some key center stuff, like, okay, well, the song's in B flat, so just play B flat. If all else fails, it'll match most of the chords. But you've always got those arpeggios to really nail the chord change, you know, so that it doesn't just sound like it's totally rambling and has nothing to do with the harmony. So for me, the biggest bang for my buck has been working on arpeggios. And probably better than that would be working on actual licks. I have said I was going to try to do some transcribing, which I have not done. I think I'm just daunted. But I'm sure it'll be good. Anyway, I was just listening to some Grant Green today, who has a lot of really, really great records. But it's interesting to listen to him. I was listening to a record called Born to Be Blue today, which has a version of Someday My Prince Will Come on it. And, you know, not knocking Grant Green at all, but he's more of a blues player than a jazz player, from what I understand. And he went through a phase where he was playing more jazz standards type stuff. Before that was a lot of blues, and I think after that he kind of returned to what he was good at. Because you can hear that it's mostly still blues playing, but then he throws in a 2/5 lick every now and again. And he doesn't have a very vast vocabulary, so he uses the same 2/5 lick a lot of the time. Very pattern-oriented, just to get through the changes. And on a song like Someday My Prince Will Come, when you've only got one lick, it really becomes obvious that you're just using it over and over again. So that's been interesting. His solo on that tune I don't think is especially good, but the saxophone player, who I don't know who that is yet, I should look that up, but whoever comes in after him and plays a beautiful solo. And it's melodic and not overly fast or beboppy. It's just really, you know, appropriate for the tune, and it's the kind of thing that I want to be able to play, kind of way I want to play. So I will probably, instead of transcribing Grant on the guitar, I'll probably transcribe whoever was playing the saxophone part on that, because I think it's better. And yeah, and that goes back to the arpeggio stuff too, because it's training your ear. Things just kind of leap out after you've done them enough times, which is, you know, annoying, because it feels like you're not doing anything when you're practicing. And then someday, a year down the road, 6 months, you might go, oh, all that stuff I've been doing is actually paying off in this very small and very specific way. But like I keep saying, it's a self-esteem thing more than anything. But yeah, so it's been good, and I'm going to keep working on this one. But getting a chance to work on these different voicings and figure out how to piece all those 7♯5 chords together has been good. And then 7♯5 arpeggios as well. And then also there are diminished chords in this, which I know diminished chords are thankfully easy, but working on the arpeggio is something I haven't done either. So that's good to get under my fingers, and I need to work on that some more. But anyway, So I'm going to flip over to iReal Pro this time. Band in a Box doesn't have like the real tracks, the like actual musicians. I don't have any, at least in 3/4 time for a jazz. It's all just like country. So I'm going to use iReal Pro, the MIDI stuff today, which is fine too. But anyway, I'll play through a little bit of this, and I am very early on this, so unlike Georgiou, I don't really know what I'm doing. But it's a floaty, fun tune, and I find that relying on my ear to just sort of play melodies tends to work out pretty well. Also, blue scale works really nice to give it a little bit of oomph in certain spots. Anyway, here we go. So yeah, that's been an intimidating tune, but just, you know, spending a little bit of time just getting familiar with it makes a huge fucking difference. Imagine that. Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Guitar Blog episode 3. See you next time.